This is MJ. I love Tokusatsu, and right now I want to talk about Kamen Rider Zero-One, episode 21. And I gotta say, overall, I liked this episode. While it is the tried and true formula of this tournament arc going on here, as Ega Devil and some other people on Twitter have called it, and I kind of called it was going to be 10 episodes. Or I wondered with a little bit of trepidation that this might turn into a 10 episode arc, and it looks like it's definitely going that way. But the fact that it's been so formulaic, so much of the same, so to speak, but that there's all these things going on in the background, it's been fine, and I'm not going to belabor that, because if you've heard my other reviews on this, you know the misgivings I've had, and if you haven't, you've probably had some of those misgivings as well. So like I said, I won't belabor it, but I want to say I'm impressed with the depth and complexity to this specific episode, because while they did follow the formula, I'm just gonna keep it trim and say that, while the formula was followed here, the way it was handled was really interesting. We had Amatsu guy pushing and pushing harder and harder against the Humagear lawyer. Oh gosh, I just had to, anyway, people were talking about President Hot Wings being the lawyer. He was, from Q Ranger, and I think people made jokes about Phoenix right. Did anyone make the joke Phoenix wrong? He's Phoenix wrong because he's the lawyer, Humagear, and he goes kind of berserk. Anyway, I think that's funny. But anyway, where was I? Oh, Amatsu guy pushed him really hard this time, and it was very blatant, and it was almost, I don't even know. It was just so strange and kind of seemingly out of character, and then he kind of, fights Aruto, and then, he makes the guy go berserk, and then he goes to destroy him. I know that's been his shtick. I wonder exactly, what's behind that, other than discrediting hidden intelligence. I feel like there's probably something more, but that something more may actually be coming next episode, because of the very end of this episode, where we got to see the eyes of the shining assault hopper. There we go. I looked at it more carefully. I listened more carefully during the henshin this time. This form of him is shining assault hopper, and it does say hybrid rise among other things, but that's the last thing it says before he gets the suit fully formed onto him, and then goes and fights. Anyway, his eyes glow red, and then it looks like he's gonna go crazy. And I think Amatsu guy brings up an interesting point to Aruto, that he is like a Humagear, where he loses control of himself, control of his emotions, and then he goes crazy, and that's a negative thing. And while I agree that people should keep their emotions in check, and that people shouldn't attack other people if they have done nothing to them that meets the criteria for a defensive response, I don't think the thing with the Humagears, where you can be mean to them and it causes them to go crazy, that your verbal abuse basically would cause them to go crazy. That's a pretty basic trigger. It's not difficult to not be verbally abusive to somebody. As a side note, yesterday I put on Amazon Prime. No, was it Hulu? Crud. I think it was through Hulu, actually. Astro Boy is on there, and I've been kind of watching that on and off, and it's it fits well with Zero-One. But anyway, watching it, and there's this concern about the robots, going the robots with Kokoro, the artificial intelligence robots in this society that Astro Boy lives in, or the Astro lives in. There's this concern about them going berserk, and if they have free will, they're going to try to destroy humans. And there's it's like a thinly veiled what would you say, analogy or reference to racism, I guess, even though Japan's a historically pretty racist country, so I don't know why. Maybe Tezuka was super aggressive, I don't know. Anyway, and I don't know enough about him to say. So regardless, it was interesting that in that Astro was being picked on by some kids. They were trying to provoke him into fighting them. I think they were throwing rocks at him. They were definitely insulting him, and he was just saying, like, it's not worth it. Like, you guys don't even want me to try, and things like that. So, Astro is a more developed AI. The show is hinting at, and I don't know if these things were in the manga early or not, but Astro the show Astro Boy, by the third episode, is already hinting at like deeper stuff about him. So I don't even know if he's like a full AI or what, and I'm not going to go into spoilers on that because I'm just supposed to be talking about Kamen Rider Zero-One. But I almost wonder, and I'm going to go back to this old speculation I had before, is Aruto actually going to turn out to be some sort of super advanced human gear? And that's part of what Amatsu Guy is trying to uncover, because he knew Grandpa Hedon, Koronosuke, right? Koronosuke Hedon, 12 years ago. 12 years ago is when the Daybreak incident happened. 12 years ago is when supposedly Aruto's human gear father sacrificed his life to save his human son, and the idea, I think, behind that is supposed to be that his real father died. So, like, I'll just say, the guy from Kikaider, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he built an android in his son's image, and that son went on and raised a child who was already born. But like, I don't know, is it possible those memories are falsified, and that Aruto was actually like this next generation? He was a AI grandson for Koronosuke, because like, I don't know, it's so weird, and we never seen him go home or anything. I just think it's very interesting, the point that Amatsu Guy raises to him, that like, hey, what about you? You could go berserk too. You lose your emotions, or you lose control of yourself, and what are you gonna do? These human gears are just like you, and I don't know. I think it's an interesting point. I liked kind of how that nuance was raised, and that's all the stuff I enjoyed from like the things going on in the background. In the foreground, I really enjoyed Fuwa Samu's portion of the episode. He didn't get to do much, but what he did was profound. He sat down, he broke bread, or opened cans as it were, with Aruto, and he kind of coached him on what he's doing, and he gave him pretty sage advice, I would say. And the most impressive thing to me is that he had the abandoned Zaya spec that Aruto was clever enough to recover, and I really enjoyed that bit of cleverness being in the show, where it's not just yelling and powering up. He chases after this Raid Riser, this awesome lion machine gun Raid Riser, which I will talk about more in a minute. And he sees the Zaya spec, so he says, hey, this could be important. So he drops his hinky on it, picks it up, and then he's like, hey, we need to get this investigated to figure out who this guy was. And then kind of like Apple security, supposedly the government's not supposed to be able to crack it, because I think Izu says that they're not going to be able to crack it. And then Isamu's like, no, like, we'll do it. All you got to do is do it by force, which I won't get on a tangent about that now, because the cool thing is that he doesn't do it by force. He goes to a technical group of experts with the police in their cybersecurity division, which is mostly staffed by human gear, and he leverages the power and the abilities, the skills, the technique of these human gears in order to crack this case, and to help prosecute a human who had the Zaya spec, who had done this crime and attacked this human gear. So all the things leading up to the actual sit-down conversation between them were so nice, because it showed the growth in Isamu's character. And yeah, he's been off screen for a bunch, and then we had the cool thing with Hirobi and stuff, but like, gosh, it's just so satisfying to see that there's been this like slow boil on his character, and what he thinks, what he feels, how he judges human gear. And now you can see he's totally turned the corner, because his resolution is, hey, all you gotta do is teach his human gear to be smarter, and not give in to the pressure or whatever, because sometimes it's just too much pressure to take. And you can probably tell how old I am, huh? Anyway, so like, that was really satisfying, really fascinating. I'm really enjoying his character development sort of off screen. I like that he's had these quieter moments with Hirobi, interrogating him and whatnot, and how that's enabled him to see more of the reality, to take a broader view of the situation, and it kind of makes sense. He was conditioned or triggered by the trauma of Daybreak Town. He got this opportunity to, become an Avenger, taking down these, Magir, and now that's all kind of stopped. He's just kind of supposed to be protecting people, and he has these opportunities to talk to this, Magir, basically. Hirobi's a super advanced Magir, right? We can agree to that? Anyway, and in those conversations, now that they're no longer in the heat of the moment, in, life or death fights, he's able to think and reflect and see that there's more going on here than he first suspected. And I just really love that introspection, and it's so, I think it's pretty impressive that that was able to be done with this character who, I think is kind of a joke. I know a lot of people like him, but I don't know why they like him, and some people like things ironically, and I think I have a hard time doing that. There's probably a few things I like in that way, but I don't know. I kind of take myself too seriously, so I think that's hard for me to do. Teruaki Sugihara was the director of this episode. I just wanted to get that down. I looked in the Kamen Rider fandom wikia, and it said that there were no entries on him. I'm pretty sure listening to Uncommon Cast RX, or maybe Laser Knees, I've heard the name Teruaki Sugihara, so I'm going to guess he's a Sentai director, but I don't know for sure. I'm not going to fact check that right now. I got to get going in a minute anyway, but I just wanted to mention, and before I mention about the directing, how awesome that was, and kind of talk about that for a minute, I want to mention how this episode was written by Yuya Takahashi, so at least I know that. That's good to confirm, and I guess it explains why it was so well written, because I definitely think I enjoy the guy's writing. Anyway, the directing in this episode was absolutely awesome. I want to make a GIF of something and put it up. I might not. Who knows? But there's this awesome thing where Isamu's got his assault wolf going, and he runs in, he slides, and he shoots at the lion raid riser, and it just looks friggin' awesome. I can't believe how good it looks, and all the fights look so good, and it was so inventive. He's this machine gun lion. I don't know if y'all have ever seen Kamen Rider V3, but there's I think all the villains they fight are like machine or like piece of equipment animal. So there's like Machine Gun Snake, and we got Machine Gun Lion here, and gosh, it's a beauty to behold. I have a tiny complaint, which I think some of the suit might be based on Leo Zodiarts or the Leo horoscope from Forze, because he's got like the long, train or whatever, not train, but like a full skirt, like a robe or long jacket hanging down, and like the design, the pattern on it's cool, but just like, is that really necessary? He's got the mane, he's got the huge mane. You can leave him like svelte and then have the mane kind of like what was his name, Mezul from O's. I know he wasn't specifically a lion, he was just like generic big cat or whatever, but still, was that Mezul or was Mezul the water one? I can't remember anymore. I think Mezul was the water one, and the cat guy I'm thinking about from O's is like Kazari or something like that. Anyway, doesn't matter. You know who I'm talking about if you do, and if you don't, you can look it up. O's the cat guy, Cat Greed. Anyway, yeah, man, that line looked friggin' fantastic. I loved just how dynamic the fight was. It was so intense. Aruto in hyper hybrid grasshopper whatever was like just like this was the best showing for that suit and for that suit actor yet, and I'm pretty sure it's probably the same suit actor who's the up and comer. He's taking over for Seiji Takala, and man, like the range, I don't know, maybe they've had him stepping up things slowly, because Mr. Caucus Five Horns dude Thouser was like pretty darn impressive, but I kind of think that Thouser got to be impressive just because he's a new guy, new suit, new toys or whatever, but man, they're And like Zero-One was kind of like very much in the background for a few episodes there, but he's coming back with a vengeance, and just like everything is on point, and I love how good it all looks. And the kind of, well, anyway, I thought it was a nuanced narrative, but it was sandwiched in between like really great fights, and I'm sure that helped to keep me going. But like, I was legitimately super excited watching this episode because the action directing was so darn good. Anyway, I had a lot of fun talking about this episode, but I really do have to wrap it up here. So, gosh, I'm looking forward to the next episode. Oh, I went to watch the next episode preview, which I rarely do. And I thought, wow, this last couple seconds of the episode was really interesting. I wonder what's going to show in the preview. And it was basically nothing. Like, I was pretty disappointed. So that's too bad. Anyway, MJ Loves Toku can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and my website. Check out mgmunoz.com for my other review series. We've got another writer cast where I sample all the Kamen Riders from Kuga to Zio, all the Heisei era Kamen Riders from Kuga to Zio. I also have King of Hearts, Queen of Sorrows, where I talk about Mobile Fighter G Gundam every single episode. I have Going Ultra, where I discuss Ultraman. I'm basically an Ultraman. I mean, I'm not really an Ultraman noob anymore. I'm not like super deep into it, but I really enjoyed what I've seen so far, and I've talked about and reviewed it. Got SSSS.Gridman, got the Netflix Ultraman series, and also Ultra Fight Galaxy New Generation Heroes. There's also Swing Through Comics you can find over there, which is also a YouTube channel where I talk about comic books, specifically Marvel, or particularly Marvel, but there's other stuff sprinkled in there. Like I did a review of Shotaro Ishinomori's Skullman in honor of his birthday, which passed recently. Interesting fact, he died 3 days after his birthday. I think it's interesting. Anyway, love what I do. Want to support me? My Coffee and Redbubble accounts have you covered. Relevant links below. I also want to mention that I do writing projects over on my website as well, mgmunoz.com, so you can find those there. If you had a good time, like, share, and leave a comment, subscribe, and ring that bell to stay current on weekly Zero-One reviews. And remember, you don't have to shout Henshin to be a hero.